Hello everybody, welcome to Halo 3 ODST Done Segmented. This is a project that took us a couple of years, and we're very excited to show you guys what we have in store for you. And I would like to introduce my fellow runners and commentators now.
Hello, my name is Wingman953.
My name is Vypr, and I'd like to introduce the commentators.
I'm Zero.
I'm Skilled, formerly active ODST runner throughout the years.
Alright, on the right side of the screen, right now, this is everyone that actually did runs for the project. And yeah.
So, back in around 2019, me, Sleepless, Zombie, and Wingman decided to give this project a try. We didn't really have any of the tools we have nowadays because the game wasn't on PC yet. The game also wasn't really developed too well yet, so there wasn't really any big segmented strats we could do yet. And we just kind of lost interest in it because there wasn't really any strats for us to use, and there's just no proper tools yet.
Yeah, so a couple of months ago, Drunk Sniper brought up the idea of doing a segmented project again. So we started working on the segmented project since we had tools from Burnt, which is Halo Checkpoint Manager, and the Halo 3 ODST Checkpoint Trainer. We were able to finally do the tricks and strats that we were never able to do before because of the PC release. So thank you, Burnt, for all of that. And let's just get hyped for the run.
Yep.
Just so you guys know, feel free to ask questions in the chat, and we'll try to answer those as we're going along through chat. We won't be saying them out loud, but just feel free to ask questions. Alright, so here we go. We're starting with prepare to drop right now. So as we're loading into the mission, you're going to notice that we spawn in a drop pod. This is the form of a tutorial for this game, and it's unskippable. You got to play through it, you know. The developers want to make sure we knew how to play the game. So we're going to sit in this pod for about 45 seconds, and when we're getting out of this pod, you're going to notice that we get out earlier than we're supposed to. This is because if you hold down the enter and exit vehicle button, you can actually get out of the pod a couple seconds earlier than what is scripted, so that's pretty cool. And then the first segmented trick in this game is going to be called Slinky Cone Launch. This cone was found by Slinky, and yeah, I'll show you this right here. So the way a cone launch works is you put an explosive device behind a cone, the explosive device explodes and pushes the cone forward, and transfers that horizontal momentum and pushes into the player, making your player move forward horizontally as well. So here, because we did that cone launch and we're here so quickly, we have to kill the enemies really fast. So we cleared that first wave and the second wave instantly, because in order for this level to progress, you have to kill all the enemies. Then here it's a random timer for the spawn to pop up. So the fastest possible time this phone can pop up is 11 seconds flat, and the fastest phone ever recorded in an IL is an 11.09 by wave. And I'll hand it over to Harc for the rest of the mission.
Alright, so that was Vypr's part of the mission, and now this is my part of the mission. What we're doing here is we're emptying ammo, and we empty ammo so that the next time that we get to Mombasa streets, another street section, we will start off with fresh grenades and ammo that we use for tricks. Coming up right here is a trick called Courtyard Slide, which was found by Drunk. Whenever you jump onto a slanted surface in ODST, your vertical velocity gets transformed into horizontal velocity, and that will be exploited multiple times throughout the run. And coming up right at the end here is a trick that Vypr found called Chair Magic Carpet. We jump on this chair and we run along it, and it speeds us up and gets us about a 1 second time save. And that's prepare to drop.
Final time for prepare to drop was 1 minute and 34 seconds. Speed.
Alright, so at the start here, this is a trick called Hog Launch, and it was found by Drunk Sniper and Ecliptic. And also I want to give another shout out to Drunk Sniper, because he made a lot of advancements in this level. Lots of cool tricks found by him. Coming up here in a second is a trick called Coil Launch. It was found by Chapified a couple years ago, and it's pretty fast launch. And now right here is a trick called Truck Launch, and it was found by Mr. Monopoly, and this saves about 10 seconds. And then right here is a trick called Barricade Launch, which was found by Drunk Sniper. It's also quite a fast trick, saves about 6 seconds. And now as we're coming up on the end, we're going to see our first instance of a Berserking Brute launch. We Berserk a Brute, and he runs into us, hits us, and it boosts us forward, getting us into the next trigger volume extremely quickly. And now at the end is Hunter Car Boost, and it was found by Drunk Sniper. I'm just going to let it explain it for itself.
A very hype Hunter car boost.
And that's Tayari Plaza.
Very solid.
In 1 minute and 18 seconds.
1 minute 18. Wow.
And now this is the beginning of the traditional Streets levels. These are not tracked on HaloRuns.com at the moment, but the premise is still the same. We have to start at the start of the streets and get to the next part of the streets as fast as possible. So as I explained before on the last mission, we're going to be emptying out our ammo, and we're going to be doing a couple of really cool tricks on this mission, including something called Debris Launch, which was, it's basically the same thing as the Cone Launch, just with another piece of debris.
Alright, so I'm going to explain the trick later on coming up here in about 40 seconds. It's called BPL, or Brute Pressure Launch. So the way Brute Pressure Launch works is there's going to be 3 brutes and 1 engineer up here. They're in a scripted animation which offsets their hitboxes, and when the animation is finished, it resets the hitboxes. So if you're lined up in the middle of these hitboxes and they reset, you get one. So I'd like to show you this right now.
Place the jar before I lose my grip.
Never not fun watching this.
Yeah, it's insane.
And that's BPL. The trick saves about 70 seconds. It's probably the biggest time save, one of the bigger time saves in the game. And that's MS1.
MS1 completed in 1 minute and 21 seconds. Insane.
So now we're on to Uplift Preserve. Normally in the run, this is just a straight driving mission. There's nothing else really to it in a normal full game run, but that's not what we're going to be seeing here. We're going to be doing a much different route. We're going to be getting out of bounds. So he's going to be lasering that brute for to take his brute shot. And he's going to be killed. No, so they don't get in the way either.
Oh, sorry, didn't see you there. Reloading.
Watch that chopper. Hit it head on and it'll tear it to pieces.
And now, similar to the coastal out of bounds that we do currently in runs, he's going to be launching the Warthog out of bounds with a few grenades and a brute shot. And now he's out of bounds. Unlike coastal out of bounds, there's really the only trigger you need to hit once you're out of bounds here is the end trigger. And this saves about like 10 seconds over the normal route, so that's why it's not really done in an IL yet. It's a very difficult trick.
Yeah, if
not
you don't
only
mind
is
me
the-
adding on.
Go Vypr, yep.
Oh,
There
yeah.
you go.
Even with skulls enabled, this trick right here is still really difficult to pull off. So
Yeah, just say it's so hard then to get it done quickly enough to even save time. It's pretty insane. And that launch was, it was very ideal. The way the hog lands, wheels down so you can drive straight up. He lands near the hog as well. Getting all those things to happen so that you can save as much time as you need to actually go faster than full path. It's very difficult.
Other than getting the hog out of bounds, the other difficult part of this trick is coming up right here, getting on the side of the wall there. You can fail that pretty easily, and you don't really get any checkpoints when you're out. So that was Uplift.
And the final time for Uplift was 1 minute and 57 seconds.
Sub 2 Pog.
Sub 2.
Alright, so coming up here is Mombasa Streets 2. And similar to the ending of MS1, we're going to do a double grenade debris launch. The only difference between normal debris launches and double grenade is that obviously we throw 2 grenades so that the debris hits us extremely hard and it slams us into the door as fast as possible, saving about 9 seconds. Also, you notice that I meleeed at the door. The reason why we do that is whenever you melee with a weapon, it slightly extends your hitbox so that you're able to get inside vehicles or hit buttons or pick up weapons a little bit earlier than normal.
Are those nerdy time saves?
Very nerdy. Literal frames. Coming up here is explosion launch. Similar to grenade jumps, what we do is we just use an explosive and then it just pushes us forward. Very slight time save, but still time save. And coming up here, and I would say about 20 seconds, is a trick called Charp It. And it was found by the runner Chapified extremely recently. And what it allows you to do is it allows you to ride a piece of scenery called the roadblock. And you're able to get a lot more speed off of it than you might expect. So we're going to go ahead and just have some silence here for this trick because this is also really cool. And that saves about 25 seconds over walking. Very cool trick. Shout out to Chapified. Also speaking of Chapified, we have a trick coming up called Truck Jump. And it uses the explosives from a grenade and the truck. And this was found by Sleepless Blue and Chapified. It saves about 4 seconds. It's a pretty cool trick. So now as we're coming up on the end, probably a good time to explain that we play New Game Plus, which means that we're able to get audio logs before the run. So what we did is we got 8 audio logs, which is what we need in order to open up this cache crate, so that we can grab this mongoose. And this mongoose is going to save time in the next couple of streets. A lot of time over walking, literal minutes. So it's very important that we get this mongoose.
Well, that Charp It may have looked very cool, but it did skip one very good trick called Genre Slide, found by a zombie.
I know, it's such a tragedy. I was debating whether or not to actually put Charp It in because of that or not. And that's MS2.
And that was done in 2 minutes and 49 seconds.
Alright, and we're on to Oni Alpha Site. So I did the entirety of this mission. And we're going to start off with sort of a tire launch. That can also be done as a carpet ride. So you're throwing 2 nades behind the tire. And here, I sort of get a bit of a launch from the tire, but in the sense that I got in front of the tire and then got launched by it. You can also do it as a carpet ride where you sort of sit on the tire and ride it to the buttons. So all you need to do is hit those 2 buttons. Mickey hits the 3rd one, and then we're basically on a time from here until the Hunter Wave. And in the Hunter Wave, we're going to be using a property of the Spine Laser where that it doesn't just do 1 tick of damage. It actually shoots about like 6 ticks of laser damage. Enemies don't need to be hit by all 6 ticks of damage to die from a Spine Laser shot on easy. So we're going to utilize that property to help us clear this wave very quickly. But normally we try to shoot the first hunter, then get a collateral on the brute and the second hunter. But instead we go for a different collateral. By shooting about 3 ticks of damage on each hunter, they both die. Use some nades and some lucky shots here to clear up, followed by one more Spite Laser sweep to finish off the clear. So that's a very fast hunter clear. And it's difficult timing those Spine Laser shots, and something that is like theoretically possible with controller, but a lot more feasible with mouse and keyboard. From here, we're on a bit of a timer, and it's quite easy to meet the quota. There are a couple issues with segmenting only alpha site, in that there are a few moments of RNG, and they're hard to deal with even when segmenting, because you have to go back quite a fair while to sort of reset the RNG. So if you get too many checkpoints just before that point, you basically have to restart if you don't have checkpoints saved. But here, clearing through, waiting for the more phantoms dialogue from Mickey, which signifies that we've met the quota and the mission's going to progress. Here, just trying to set him up to assist with the instant Mickey. That's going to help later on. Don't really know if this does help, but it helped this time. So try to get him stuck. And sometimes he gets stuck. Gave him the Spine Laser there just to see if he can assist me in the wave fight. It's not required. His assistance isn't required in the wave fight, but there's just the off chance that he shoots a Spine Laser and it actually helps me out. I was going to spend lots of time trying to get some 6 snipes, but it was just going to be taking too long and it wasn't actually saving time. So here we do a nade slide into the building. One thing I didn't end up adding was a rocket plus nade assisted nade slide, but it saves less than a second, I would say, and probably wouldn't have changed the final time. Instantly get Mickey to teleport in and say the dialogue. At the moment it's an RNG trick. We have a faster setup that loses about a few seconds. That's pretty consistent, but nothing that we've got working in solo for instant Mickey. So here in the wave fights, there's effectively 5 waves if you're playing casually. In the code, there's actually set to be 3 waves, and they just bigger groups, but we sort of look at it as 5 waves. So this is the first wave, which is basically on a timer. Then the second wave we need to clear quickly, so that we can move to the third wave, and the third wave is what holds up half of the wave fight. So if you jump on a bench and break the pathing between Suicide Grunts and the player, it causes Suicide Grunts to just detonate straight up. And you see this on the mission Exodus in Halo Reach. So here, quickly try and kill the second wave, pre-fire some rockets to kill some brutes, and then move on to the 4th and 5th waves, and try and kill enemies as quickly as possible. Another difficult part about segmenting this is that to make this wave fight go faster, you kind of need enemies to walk into the kill plane behind the building, but that happens by complete random, and once you've sort of progressed this far in the mission, and if it's not happening, you basically need to reset the whole run and try again. But by pre-firing rockets and throwing nades, we're able to clear things practically as fast as if they just walked into the kill plane. So from here, unfortunately, we're on another timer. Plenty of time to kill these enemies. To speed this up, there's potentially idea to kill the pilot of the Phantom that's dropping off these troops. But there's no known way to do that using the tools that we have in the mission only alpha site. But it's an interesting fact to note that Phantoms have pilots, and often if you can find a way to kill them, you can speed up the mission sometime. Unfortunately, I haven't found a way for do it without any modifications. There's also a way to skip this internal wave fight and sort of rebuilding fight and go straight to the roof, but that's only been done with Cowbell Skull. So we use 2 launches, one to hit a trigger that's about halfway up this building. So we're going to hit it on the elevator ride coming up, and then we go back down to the ground floor, go outside, and then launch all the way up to the top of the building, and then hit the final triggers and end the mission. Again, that's only been done cowbell, skull, and segmented. It hasn't been done single segment with cowbell, and they probably don't have the tools to be able to do that without skulls. It is also done in the acrophobia run, and that can be seen, I believe, on our category extensions leaderboards on speedrun.com.
Where the heck did these buggers come from?
Underground tunnels are filled with the damn thing.
So as I said before, on a bit of a timer here. Usually we go for nares, but unfortunately we're running without timer, so don't get to see the medals. And at the roof fight, you've heard me say it before, and I'm going to be saying it again, there's a little bit of a timer, so we need to hit a kill quota after about 15 seconds or so, and it's pretty easy to hit that quota on easy difficulty. And then we need to look to do a pelican board, similar to pelican boards that you may have seen on Sierra 117. Just need to get into the back of the pelican and activate the enter vehicle button, so we're going to try and do that as quickly as possible. And there's an interesting difference between easy and ledge here, is that legendary actually has a hammer chieftain spawn, so you have an extra tool to be able to get into the pelican as quickly as possible. But in this case, we're going to be doing a frag boost and brute shot boost together to get into the pelican as quickly as possible and complete Oni in 7 minutes and 39 seconds.
That's a pretty fast time.
Very solid time.
Now we're on to Mombasa Streets 3, and as you remember from the last streets, we grabbed the mongoose, so now we have that for the rest of the streets. There's really not too many more streets left, but this one has the most tricks, I guess, in the driving streets. So a lot more interesting than the other two, or other three that we have left.
Yep.
Coming up here, we have the Tony Hawk trick, named by Sleepless Blue. He's going to be driving his mongoose along the railing and landing on all 4 wheels instead of flipping. It's not too bad, but it can be a little bit tricky. And now coming up, we have the Goose Fling. There was another version found by Rob that featured 2 nades, but Harc has found a version with 1. And that was MS3 in...
That was MS3 in 50 seconds.
Alright, and this is the start of Kizingo Boulevard. We're going to start off with a trick called Rocket Car Boost, which was found by Drunk. A pretty cool trick. Saves about 2 or 3 seconds. Yeah, and coming up here in a sec, we're going to hijack a ghost. And the way that we're going to do it is we're going to rocket it as it's dropping off. And it saves about, I would say, 2 seconds over just waiting for it to drop down than just hijacking it. And now we're going to have some very nice mouse and keyboard driving.
As long as I get to drive the tank.
And we're going to pick up the beam rifle here. And this beam rifle is going to be used for a trick called Banshee Board, which was found by someone called Benjamin about less than 30 days after ODST released. So what we're going to do is we're going to take out a Plaza pistol and we're going to EMP the Banshee. And then we're just going to hijack the Banshee right there. And I just want to say that the first person to ever do the trick in a speedrun is someone called Ensnare Cadaver. They definitely helped push this level forward because a lot of people didn't think that the level was going to have the Banshee board. They thought that the trick was going to be too hard. And now, real quick, I just want to explain a couple things that you may have missed. I killed a Marine and a Grunt in the Ghost. The reason why I did that is it makes the Banshee spawn about 8 seconds faster than normal, and it was found in the scripts by Burnt and I was the first person to basically prove that it does indeed save time. And now here we're just gonna just wait for this auto-scroller, basically ending to finish up. We just have to kill all the enemies, and we are not really pressed for time, so very easy. There is something near the end that I'll explain whenever we get there, but that's basically it for this level.
We got a question earlier, if you wouldn't mind answering.
Yeah, what's up?
Somebody asked what your wayfight time was. Do you
Yes.
know what that is?
Yeah, it was a 53-second wave fight, and the split at the end of the wave fight was 4 minutes 31.
That's also really fast.
That is really fast.
Alright, as we're coming up in the end, I gotta explain something real quick. Technically, this mission could go 5 seconds faster if a trick existed called Phantom Deload. On MCC, unfortunately, it does not exist. On the original version, though, that Phantom deloads 5 seconds early, that's 5 seconds earlier than it does here. But unfortunately, that trick does not work on MCC, so rip.
And the final time for Kizingo is 3:07. Very fast.
Matthew?
And now we're on to MS4. As you can see, we have the mongoose again, and on this streets, there's a 1 in 8 chance on easy difficulty of getting a ghost, so you guys should let me know what you think if they're gonna get a ghost.
Surely not. I mean, it's 1 in 8. It's very unlikely they'll get it.
The likelihood on legendary is a lot higher. When I did legendary runs, I used to get it all the time, and there you go, they got the ghost.
No
Legendary mod check?
And that was MS4. Really not a lot to it.
Yeah, so that was MS4 in 39 seconds.
And now, this is my favorite level. This is the level that got me into ODST, so lots of history with this level. The very first trick is actually a newer trick that I found called a Buck Carpet. You got on Buck's head, you ride his head, and he shoots you forward pretty fast. And now we're gonna have a Coil Launch right here. And this is one of the first Coil Launches that was ever found too. Pretty cool. And just super quick, I want to give another shout out to Ensnare Cadaver, who was the first person to ever get a sub 6 minute time on this level way back in the day. And we got a Berserking Brute there, and here in about 5 seconds we get a very good Berserking Brute launch. Here we go. Extremely quick Berserking Brute, saves about 5 seconds. And this Coil Launch right here was found by Vypr pretty recently. Saves about a second. And then we're just going to do this little fusion coil boost. And then we're going to get a really nice slide jump here. And we're going to melee this grunt, which saves about half a second. And now what we're going to do is we're going to hit a really good Coil Launch. And then we're going to kill all the enemies. Pretty much every single enemy needs to be dead by the time you get up to the top of the platform. Otherwise you're going to be losing time. Unfortunately, this Coil Launch was so fast that I lose about 2 seconds because I don't have enough enemies dead. That's just how good that Coil Launch was. It was so good. And now that we've hit that new intel data, the wayfight has started. And due to my personal request, we will be silent for the remainder of the wave fight because it's a very cool part of the mission that I very much enjoy.
Also to the other side. Phantom to our right. More phantoms! Hit 'em hard!
And now as we're coming up on the end of the mission, all we have to do is kill this phantom, make sure that we don't kill it too fast so that we don't soft lock, and that'll be the end of NMPD.
And that very groovy NMPD was completed in 4 minutes and 9 seconds.
Now we're on to MS5. We're gonna have the ghost for the 2 remaining streets. Really not much going on in this one. Really nothing too different from the normal route. If you would see if you got a ghost, there's one minor route change that saves about a second or so. Since Kikowani has a lot going on in it, and in such a short amount of time, I'm going to allow Wingman to start explaining some of that a little bit early on this mission.
So Kikowani used to be done sort of full path, all inbounds, and a while ago, a number of years back, Chapter found an out of bounds, but there was no known way how to utilize that in the speedrun setting. Binails then found ways in which we could hit all the necessary triggers to progress the mission, and we implemented that in an IL. But then there was new and faster ways to get out of bounds that utilize the phantoms. And the first phantom out of bounds requires us to clear a certain number of enemies, 2 enemies off the ground. And we're going to do that very early on in the mission by shooting a fusion coil that needs to kill 2 grunts. We're then going to make our way to a banshee and snipe the pilot out of the banshee as quickly as possible so that we can then catch up to the phantom and ride it out of bounds. To get out of bounds with the banshee, we need to break 2 barriers. One is a player barrier and the second one's a vehicle piloted by a player barrier. So we break by the first barrier by being in the banshee, and then we get out of the banshee to allow us to get the banshee past the second barrier. And I'll pass over to Harc now, who did the second half of this mission.
Alright, so now we're gonna hit this first trigger, and then we're gonna do some tech that you saw here that you saw a second ago, called Slinky Flipping. It was found by someone named Slinky and Halo Reach, but it was found recently in other Halo games by Dice and Seclusive. And basically, if you just like do sideways flips, you go really fast. And now here, this is second poob. So we shot the squid house to make the phantom take off, and similar to Under Contingency, we just ride the phantom completely out of bounds while still inside of it. Saves a lot of time. And those were some really nice slinky flips right there. That took me a lot longer than it probably should have, but it was extremely hard. And now we're just hitting the final couple triggers and slinky flipping to the end, and now will be the end of Kiko. Very fast mission.
So apologies because I was talking about Kikowani, forgot to mention Mombasa Streets 5 was done in 36 seconds, and Kikowani Station was done in 1 minute and 46 seconds.
Now we're on to MS6, the shortest, I guess, mission in the entire Halo franchise. I don't see that ever being taken by another level. Really not a lot to it, except this ghost flip here. And this is another one of the streets that has to be done in a certain order. This will always be the last one, but it depends on where you hit the last beacon from. And that was MS6 in 15 seconds.
Very fast. And now we're on to Data Hive. So we're just barely over halfway done with the game. So we're just going to do some slide jumps here at the start. And just real quick, I want to give a shout out to Chapified and Sleepless. And I want to say Nagata too. They put in a lot of work into this level. And they're the names that you hear the most when you talk about Data Hive. And I'll go and pass this along to Vypr so that he can explain some story elements real quick.
Alarm! Intruder! In tunnels!
Vypr?
Oh,
Okay.
someone else can explain that.
Okay, fine, I'll explain it. This mission is a reference to the 9 Circles of Hell and Dante's Inferno. That's basically it. It's a love letter to that, and yeah, it's pretty cool. So yeah, we're gonna do a lot of slide jumps on this mission, where possible, using grenades for them. Here coming up, is a pretty cool trick. I'll just let it be explained by just watching it.
We have it trapped.
That's pretty nice fusion
Very
coil
fast.
boost. Yeah,
Fair
that's
enough.
that saves like a lot of time over walking, a lot. And now you're just gonna get to this first cop.
Do you know what your first split was here?
Trying to get down to the next level. This stack.
Oh, I cannot remember. It's I want to say it was like a 122 or something. It's extremely quick. And now we're going on to sub-level 8, and normally you want to pick up that carbine over on the left, but unfortunately it's a little bit slow to pick up a carbine right there. And now we're going to do this Coil Launch, which was, I think, found by Adsi, maybe? I'm not 100% sure on that. But here we're going to Berserker Brute, kill that guy for flame grenades that are needed. And we're going to be doing a lot of Berserking Brute launches in these next couple hallways. And there's our second Berserking Brute. And right here, I do an explosion boost. And right here, now I have to kill every single enemy. Because we want the cop to teleport, and we want him to immediately start walking towards the trigger that he needs to hit for us to continue the mission. If we leave enemies alive, he'll aggro on them and start shooting at them. It's very slow. And this was a 255 cop crouch. That's what we call it. Or 256. My bad. 256. Okay.
If you didn't have all 29 or 30 audio logs, there would be something a little bit different that would happen there. The drones would kill that cop there with you, but if you have 29 or 30 audio logs, he will not die. And on Legendary, it's kind of a big deal. It helps a lot. But on Easy, it's not really, it doesn't really matter that much.
Yep. And now coming up here in a sec, we're going to get a Berserking Brute launch, and then immediately followed by a Cone launch. And then we're going to head into Drone Door. Drone Door is extremely difficult. It's a clear you have to do, where every single enemy in the room has to be dead, not a single one can survive. And unfortunately, the way the devs made this room, these drones really love to go and hide in the corners instead of coming out and facing you. So it makes clearing out the room, at least in full game, a very tedious task. But thankfully, we were able to get that Drone Door clear done in 11 seconds. So that's pretty fast.
Alright, so if you guys are curious, that last split right there was that first half in 4 minutes and 9 seconds. So coming up here, we're just continuing along with the moving through halls, doing slide jumps, doing will boosts. I just want to say that we had to get really creative for this mission, because because it's so long, we could really just do whatever we wanted to do. So we were just throwing in random Berserker Brutes just to save out a little bit of extra time and as much time saved as we could get out of it. Anyway, coming up here in about 40-ish seconds, there's going to be a trick called D-Route. This trick was found by Drunk Sniper about a year ago, and it is a way for us to get to from the bottom floor of the turbine room up to the catwalk, and skipping the elevator ride and the drone spawn. So that saves about 25 seconds if we're walking. So pretty major time save for this mission coming up. And then right here, Harc just lured down a Berserker Brute into the turbine room to save once again those couple of extra seconds. So coming up here after D-Route as well as another trick called Catwalk Launch. It was originally found by Sleepless before D-Route was found, and it was really out of the way. We since developed it to work with this route, and I guess we'll just show it off right here.
Before D-Route was found, there was 2 different ways you could get up to the top here without taking the elevator. There was a method they used, a brute shot and grenade. That method was very, very consistent. And there was also another method where you pushed 2 plasma boxes together and either shot or meleeed and jumped. And luckily, D-Route is the fastest version as well as the easiest in most people's opinion.
Alright, so here we have Chieftain Clear. It's required for all 3 of these enemies to die or fall off the map. And then Dare says some dialogue, and at the end of her dialogue, if you use an explosion or anything to make her jump in the air or go off the map, it will give you an instant door dialogue, which saves some time, and that was found by Chapter 5. So coming up here is going to be one of my favorite strats in this run actually. It's going to be a box launch to open up the door earlier. And so, if you hit this box launch fast enough and you're going at a fast enough speed, the enemies don't actually begin their dropping down animations, so it registers as all enemies being dead, and the door opens up instantly. And then here, this is actually a trick we found in Segmented. It's Dare Teleport, and she can actually teleport into the bottom of this room. And that's the only way that that box launch saves time, is with that teleport. And we don't really know how it happened. We just think that it's based on a very specific position she's standing in. So I'm going to hand the time over to Harc really quick to explain what's going to come up next.
Yeah, so I'm setting up something called Coil Launch. I'm not exactly sure who actually found it. I want to say Nails, but I'm not 100% sure because Nails was like the first person I saw doing it. But anyways, we're setting it up. And now we're just waiting for Virgil's softlock timer to kick in because Virgil cannot teleport down here, unfortunately. So even though initially that box launch that we did saved over 25 seconds, unfortunately the trick overall of like doing the hammer launch and doing this only saves 5 seconds over what we think is like the best possible time that you could get without doing the box launch. Because Virgil's softlock timer takes about 20 seconds to kick in. And now as we're nearing the end of the mission, we're gonna go ahead and do this coil launch. So we're gonna stick it with the spike, hammer off of it, pushes you a little bit forward, and then we're gonna carry our momentum all the way to the end. And we're gonna wait until we bypass this little forklift right there to turn around and teleport Virgil. If you look around too early, then he won't teleport and it'll lose about 20 seconds. And that's well, okay, that's you, Matthew.
It was Data Hive in 8 minutes and 45 seconds.
Which is
a full minute and a second faster than the island. Pretty fast.
Pretty quick. And this is the final mission, Coastal Highway.
Agreed.
So thankfully, we were able to carry over Brute Shot and Hammer, which is what we need in order to set up this box launch right here. Setting up that box launch took me a couple of hours. It took me a lot longer than I wanted. So we're going to do the box launch, and then we're going to shoot the grunt out of the turret so that he drops 2 grenades, which is what we need in order to do the highway skip coming up here in about 20 seconds. So right here we're going to turn around for just a second, and then we're going to turn around again. What we just did was we teleported everyone forward, except all we need is just Virgil to teleport forward so that he can open up the door. So we're going to push Virgil into the door, ride him a little bit, and we're going to hit that cutscene at 55 seconds. And now Zero, if you want to explain the highway.
Yep. So highway skip is a relatively new trick. It really became a thing back in December. However, I guess the theorization kind of started back when Acrophobia came out. As it turns out, Burnt actually came up with a launch which was only viable for Acrophobia, but essentially allowed you to get out of bounds with the first Warthog. And on Acrophobia, once you're out of bounds, you're pretty much just able to fly through the triggers. But I believe Harc was then the one to try to figure out a way to do it without Acrophobia. And the big thing is that everyone was trying to do it with 1 hog. And one day I just kind of thought, well, why don't we try to get 2 hogs out? Now, the reason we need to do 2 hogs is if you only use 1 Warthog, it actually gets stuck in bounds, and you have to push it so far out of bounds that would pretty much be impractical and very difficult to do normally. But by getting 2 Warthogs out, as you'll see right here, essentially you take this first one, that gets stuck in bounds, and since you never touch this one going through the soft barrier, it's already out of bounds and it's not stuck. So you're pretty much just able to get out of bounds like that. It is a fairly difficult trick. It's definitely not the worst thing in the world, but it definitely has killed a few runs. And now, of course, while this does save around, I think, 4 minutes here in Segmented, you still have to hit triggers. If you didn't have to hit all these triggers, you'd pretty much be able to just drive to the end, but you have to go through each door, hit different triggers. And what you'll notice is that one we were able to just drive through the middle. Some of the doors have special cases in which you have to hit them in different points, which you'll see later. And this next door right here, you'll see he gets out of the Warthog a little early to hit a load. Actually, I guess he's... Okay, so he drives through the load then. And as you'll see, this one is middle load or trigger again, but you'll see the next one he's going to actually have to hit it from a different spot.
Is it good if I take over now?
Yeah.
Alright, so yeah, like Zero said, we're gonna need to hit this specific trigger in a bit of a different spot. But we're gonna be able to still be able to save time over what you normally do. So we come down here, hit that trigger, and the Warthog's already right there, ready for us to get in. Then we simply just drive around. Getting the Warthog to land in that specific spot was actually pretty difficult. And thankfully, now the next couple loads are the mid loads, which are extremely easy to hit. They're not really risky at all. So we're just going to have some good driving through them. And if anyone has any more questions, now would be a very good time, since this is basically the only mission that has like any amount of downtime.
Anything in the run at all. I mean, this is all like copy-paste kind of, so...
There's one quick thing, if you guys don't mind adding about Data Hive. That one had the most revisions in the whole project because we had quite a hard time going for that sub-9 goal. And while we were doing the project, we didn't really think about this dare teleport working. We went through like 7 revisions of the start and I don't know, 4 revisions of the end. So I just want to like, I guess I'm trying to say is that the journey through the project was almost as cool as like the project itself, just because of all the things we were able to, all the strats and stuff we were able to find along the way.
Ranger asked, what drives you guys to keep looking for skips? Looking for new ways to basically just like cut down time on the speedrun so that we can do the game even faster.
Yeah, everyone talks about like the Halo sandbox, and it's just a sandbox that we use to try and go as fast as possible, and that's just like a fun puzzle to try and solve.
Yeah, and I think a big part of it too is we have like these goals in our head. For example, like I was talking about, data Hive sub 9. In order to make that happen, we'll just try to find anything to save those 1 to 2 seconds, and we'll just mess around with whatever we can to meet that goal. And that's kind of just how tricks are found. There's also the other way of where they're accidentally found, which is just as cool, but that's really like what drives the trick finding.
LG asked, what's the hardest trick to segment, and what was the dumbest way a segment died? So hardest segment, I really want to say was BPL or Uplift out of bounds. Those two tricks were extremely hard to do. Those took multiple hours and thousands of attempts.
With BPL, we didn't only have to segment the segment, which took hours by itself, but we also had to find the lineup and everything that went along with that. So it just the hours stacked on that trick for sure.
And this is a segmented trick right here. Normally you drive off more to the right, but thankfully I was able to make that work of driving off to the left, and that saves about 4 seconds. And right here is a cool thing called flame load. We basically go through that load, turn ourselves 90 degrees around, and then just drive up back the way we came. Which saves about, I want to say 2 seconds over what we did at some of the other doors we had to drive down. And I want to say that this part actually took a while to do. This definitely took multiple segments, because there's a trick that happens in the infight where it's based off of the time of which you go through between the door that you just saw me hit, well, the door before the one you just saw me hit, and the final door that's coming up here in about 10 seconds. If you go through that on the right cycle time, it makes a really cool trick able to be possible. So now we're coming up on the end here. We're going to drive off the map here, land upright, and we're going to drive down here, and then we're going to rocket the Warthog over this barrier. And by doing that, we save about 7 seconds of walking by just being able to drive into this final trigger that starts the infight. And Matthew, I believe you can start talking about the infight now, up until Jackal clear.
So now, once we get this prompt that we have to defend the engineer, there's a wave fight. I think it's 3 waves. First wave will be brutes and grunts. Second wave is jackals and hunters, and the last wave is brutes again. And they're all on a timer, pretty much. You can only speed it up so much. We're just pretty much going to be spawn killing each wave as fast as we can, because there's nothing really you can do to speed it up except for one special trick coming up.
Yes, ma'am.
So the only thing that would be any different if you didn't do coastal out of bounds is you might have a fuel rod if you didn't do the out of bounds, but it doesn't really matter that much anyways. The rockets are just fine. Here's the first wave. We have a bunch of grunts and brutes. Spawn and kill them all as fast as you can. Doesn't really matter how fast you do it, like I said, it's on a timer. You have to really, really mess up a lot to start losing time from these waves.
And those are alright if I take over now?
Yep.
Alright, so coming up here is Jackal and Hunter wave. Thankfully though, we're only gonna have to do one of those. And the reason for that is here in a second, you're gonna notice that there's something there that's not supposed to be there. And that thing is the Scarab. Just keep that in mind, because normally there's supposed to be a phantom that comes from nearly just about that direction. So we're just gonna take out these jackals here as fast as we can, because we don't really have too much time here, unfortunately, in order to take out these jackals, because the boss coming up here in about 5 seconds. We're gonna kill this last Jackal, and we're gonna look over, and then the Phantom is flipped upside down. We have to kill these grunts because they're immune to fall timer, but the hunters are not, so they die from fall timer. You kill the pilots of the Phantom, and the game goes, oh, the pilot of the Phantom is gone from the mission. Let's spawn in the next wave. That's a trick that saves about 35 seconds. And I'll go ahead and hand it. Oh, what was that?
It was found by Yev completely accidentally. I think on PB base as well.
Yep. And then I was able to actually make it save time. So yeah, pretty cool trick. And I believe you can go ahead, Matthew, with the end of the mission.
Now this is the final wave. We have a bunch of jetpack brutes and a chieftain. He's just using rockets and beam rifle to take them out. And once he's done, he'll have to wait a little bit for the Phantom to spawn in, and that's the end of the run. I'd like to give a special shout out to Adversary for discovering something very bad that can end right at the end of it. We actually named it Getting Shawned. So you'll see the Phantom has just spawned in there, and there's those two wraiths on the bridge that are shooting. And the Phantom will fly over to them and shoot them, and sometimes the Phantom does not kill them. And this happened to Adversary on record, world record pace, and it ended up losing him about 10 seconds, so it added extra 10 seconds onto his world record run. And that was the first we've ever seen of it in a full game run, so we named it after him.
And super quick, right before the run ends, I want to give a shout out to Terminal Velocity and Tremacious Dragosity.
And as you can see, they are looking at the wrong poster there. They're supposed to look at the tiger, look at the panda.
Panda game. So that was Coastal Highway in 12 minutes and 12 seconds, which is a minute 20 faster than the current IL recce, minute 22. And Harc has enlisted Romeo to help us reveal the final time of the ODST Easy segmented full game run.
Yeah, here in just a second, Romeo's actually going to point it out to us. 48:57, extremely fast. I'm very happy of the work that we did on this run.
I wasn't talking about the alien. Mickey, I'm sending you a very special co-pilot.
I guess I'll just start off with my shout-outs. Thank you to everyone, ODST community, everyone that's helped towards ODST segmented in the past. For this specific full game run, big shout-outs to Harc. He did a lot of the levels, a lot of the segmenting, all of the editing to put it all together. And he really drove us and put us all together to get it done into this final product. So a lot of people have put effort into producing ODST segmented, but in terms of getting this across the line, a lot of effort is put in by Harc. So thank you to Harc and Vypr for contributing, and to the commentators for today.
And also, once this run is on YouTube, I implore everyone to go through it frame by frame because I hit a lot of Easter eggs. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd like to give a shout out to just the early trick finders and strat finders for ODST, which like some of them would just include like Bishop, Orson, Ensnared, Cadaver, Chapified Sleepless. They're really the ones who got ODST where it is today, so shout outs to them. As well as Nagato, he kind of put ODST on the main stage for Halo games, so shout outs to him too.
Lord Hood may have given you clearance.
If anyone else has any shout outs?
I don't know.
Don't worry.
Alright, well with that, I would like to give one last shout out to, well, a couple shout outs. I'd like to give a shout out to HaloRuns.com, the #1 source for all your Halo speedrunning needs. I would like to give a shout out to Chronos Returns, who very graciously allowed us to stream this segmented run on this channel. And yeah, I think that's about it. So we're just going to go ahead and let this finish out here, and then we're going to go ahead and end the stream. I want to thank everyone here for coming to watch the run. It means a lot.
Hope everyone enjoyed what you got to see here tonight or today.
It took
depending
a
on
lot
where you
of time and effort. So. And if anybody has any last questions they want to ask, feel free to ask. You can ask or answer them real quick.
And that's it. That's Halo 3 ODST Easy Done Segmented in 48 minutes and 57 seconds.